Hey guys, I wanted to record part two of Healing the Past and Shaping a Beautiful Future. And you could just as easy call this Living Without Regrets or Worrying About the Future. So you're free from past trauma and completely free from anxiousness, worrying about what might happen in the future. And I wanted to remind everybody that really in my opinion, what true ministry is not to teach you about God as the primary goal, but to allow you to experience God and really helping you realize who you are and that you are connected to the Spirit of God, this higher power that is unlimited in time and space. It's unlimited in ability. It can do in anything, and it can since it's infinite, as I showed you in the last message, if you just go look up infinite, it's boundless. There's no space, there's no time, there's no limits. That's why we always talk about infiniteness and limitlessness. And people call it different things. Science sometimes calls it like this divine matrix, the field. Christians would feel more comfortable calling it the presence of God, the Spirit of God. They're all trying to describe the same thing. And what science and scripture are both really pointing to is you're even more miraculous than you thought. You're more magnificent than you thought. That you have access to this power that truly is the power of God. So the number one thing to remember in all this is that you're tapping into God. You're tapping into the presence of God, the life source and the creative ability of the entire world. So it's not a big deal for God. And when you realize that God's infinite and is not bounded by time or space, if you really just think about it, is God present at the beginning of creation? Is he at the end of creation? Of course he is. So, and that's not gender specific, it's just habits. So if you feel more comfortable as a saying his or him, I understand that. That's not the point. The point is that whatever you believe about God typically is it's infinite, it's present in all things and everywhere. So that Spirit of God was present in the beginning, it's present in the end. It's present when you were born, it's present when you step out of this body into eternal life. um, so it's not a big deal for the Spirit of God to go backwards and forwards. Now, the miraculous part that we're seeing, and science is really just starting to get a grip on this, is that what you do right now, they call it quantum entanglement, what you do in one space and time, meaning the current you is connected to the past you, and the current you, the now you, what you're doing today in this very moment, is connected to the you 10 years from now, 20 years from now, 30 years from now. And what you do today in one space and time actually affects what you do yesterday and what you're going to do tomorrow. And so if you listen to Dispenza or any of these guys, they'll say the generous present moment, stay present, stay as awareness, pay attention to what you're thinking on and feeling, because it you have more influence over your life than you could ever imagine. The amazing part about this is that love, the Spirit of God, the matrix, the presence of God that connects all things through space and time, responds to us. Every atom in the universe responds to you, so the whole responds to you. And the science is showing some pretty amazing things, but I want to make it applicable. So it's not just, oh, wow, that's really cool. I think it is really cool. But how does that apply to me in my life? So let me just share how I look at this presence of God. That if you really understood that the presence of God is in you and all around you, and it connects all space and time, you would realize you could receive your deepest goals, your deepest desires faster than you ever thought possible, because you're tapping into the variability of God. And this isn't a big deal for God. It's not hard for God. And so it's getting past your limited self, your limited head knowledge, I call it. It's only as good as what you put in there. And some people think, oh, I don't have an education, I don't have this knowledge. Right. That's your analytical mind, that's your head knowledge. But true prayer and meditation gets you past that and into the spirit realm where you have access to all knowledge. It already has all the answers. So you don't have to worry about trying to get the right answers. If you're coming up against an apparent problem, you don't have to beat yourself and uh, try figure this out in your human ability, your human strength. No, you have access to all strength and all creation. So you're not limited. That's what's really a fascinating thing. And so, yes, you can receive your deepest desires faster than you ever thought possible when you tap into this higher power. You can use it to heal yourself, which is fantastic, but also heal others, because what you're doing to yourself has effect on the whole. And it's really a fascinating thing. So you can heal yourself and others. Like I already said, I just made some notes here. You can get answers to every question quickly. You can remove any obstacle quickly in your life, not in human strength. You can tap into this higher strength, this higher love greater than you, that loves you so much, guys, and will do anything to bring about the results that you want. That's what it is. The fascinating thing is it spans all space and time, like I said. So you don't ever have to spend another day going, I wish I wouldn't have done this, or I wish I never would have met this person, or I wish this never would have happened. Here's what they're really finding out. What you do right now, the Spirit of God, like I said, connects all time and space. It's been present throughout your whole life. It's present before this physical life. It's going to be present afterwards. And once something's connected, they found out that it's always connected in space and time, no matter how far away or how past or future it is. It's hard to get our arms around and our head around, but the science is showing this is how it's working. And so, I shared various experiments from like Divine Matrix. I'll share out of that a little bit. And one of the first things that they were doing is they would take DNA cells and out of some of these cheek, and they ultimately moved them 350 miles away. And you would think, oh, those are just dead cells now. Like if you cut your fingernails, be another example, and you put them in uh, a test tube 350 miles away, you would think, well, what you're doing in your mind and your imagination, your emotions, isn't affecting those fingernails 350 miles away. They're dead. They're separated. What they're finding is when you have an emotional response now, they have an atomic clock to realize that the minute you expressed upregulated emotions, let's say, or higher emotions, I'm sorry, like joy, peace, bliss, it had an effect on that DNA in a positive way in no time span. It happened simultaneously. And also, when they showed people images of things that caused them fear, caused them worry, caused them shock, it had effect on the DNA in a negative way. Science calls it upregulating, meaning this as when you're experiencing the elevated emotions of joy, love, peace, awe, in love with life, limitless. You feel invincible. You feel like you can do anything because you're connected to God. Um, your body naturally heals. And when you do that, you can actually heal others as well. So it actually upregulates those genes, meaning it turns off it downregulates the things that are causing chronic disease, shuts all that off, and upregulates the genes that are causing healthy new cells, new organ growth, new tissue. Really fascinating thing. So let's get into this a little bit. But the real practical thing is, guys, is I want you to understand is what you do right now when you're tapping into this power of God does all those things I mentioned, brings you your dreams faster than you ever thought possible. You can heal yourself and others. Remember, this is God. This isn't a big deal for God. It's not you trying to exert your pressure. And we were talking about this in fellowship. Sometimes when you're trying to manifest, or the language we use, we get right back into religion, meaning I have to go perform for God to move. No, when we simply go within, and what we think about and what we allow ourselves to feel actually creates it in the physical realm, because what you do in one space and time, the spiritual realm, has the same effect in all spaces and times. It must appear in the physical realm because that's the law. That's how it works. And not only that, what you do today has an effect on the 10-year-old you in the same time and space. So it actually heals the past. And here's the other part. We'll share out of Dying to Be Me by Anita Majani a little bit. Here's what's really cool. If you take the English translation, even though this isn't what it says actually in the original Greek, but the idea is actually accurate when you say all things work together for good. What she saw when she was in the spirit realm, she goes, you can't make a wrong decision. So guys, the pressure's off. It's really cool. It's like this. If you have choice A, God arranges all things and all people to make choice A ultimately the right choice for you. And let's say you chose choice B. It's like the spirit goes, that's perfect choice. That's perfect. I'm going to make the right people, the right things. We're going to go down this path because the ultimate goal, the love and harmony of God, will ultimately brings everybody to the realization that they are loved by God, they're one with God and one with the whole. That's the whole game. It brings you right back to this. So if you pick choice A, it rearranges people, places, things in your life, all 8 billion people or whatever number it is today, to make choice A the right choice for you. Like, good job, you made the right choice. If you chose choice B, it says, good job, that's the perfect choice. I'm going to arrange it differently now and take this path because the end goal is always the same, to have everyone realize the love of God and their oneness with God. All things really do work together for your good. So we don't have to regret past decisions and why did I do this? Why didn't I do this? Now let's kind of get into the some of the science behind this a little bit, and then we'll finish it up to how to really make this practical. So first, I'm going to read through the Divine Matrix by Greg Braden, and you could call the Divine Matrix, guys, the Spirit of God, the presence of God. Science is just saying we realize there's something there that's a matrix that we are all connected, and what you do has an effect on the whole. So listen to this. I'm just going to share just a little part here. It says, I've written this book for one reason, to share a sense of hope, possibility, and empowerment in a world that often makes us feel small, ineffective, and helpless. Religion does the same thing, unfortunately. It makes you feel small and helpless a lot of times. You're not just a sinner saved by grace, guys. You are the magnificent creation of God. You have, you will be, and you always will be. You've never been separated from God, and nobody's ever been separated from God, because everything that is connected out of the only thing that existed when creation happened, which is the presence of God. That's what they call the divine matrix. We go, we don't know what it is. We just know that there's something that connects all of us that has an effect. So here's how science describes this presence of God, the Spirit of God that's in you and all around you. In Discovery 1, there's a field of energy that connects all of creation. Let's just call that the Spirit of God. Discovery 2, this field, or the presence of God, plays a role of a container. It contains all of us. It's a bridge, and it simply responds or mirrors the beliefs and emotions within us. It responds to us. That's what love does. Discovery 3, this field is non-local and holographic. I mean, it's everywhere, and every part is a smaller picture of the whole part, is really what a holograph is. Every part of it is connected to every other, and every piece mirrors the whole on a smaller scale. That is so cool. What you do in one place in time has the same effect in all places in time. And when we communicate with the field through that, we communicate with this field through the language of emotion, meaning that what we feel and experience actually has an effect because it is the presence of God at work. So it's not you struggling trying to manifest something. It's just you allowing yourself to enjoy in your quiet time life exactly how you would like it. There's no struggle. There's no spiritual warfare. There's no God getting the bad guys. Everything is in the presence of God. So when you allow yourself to go, thank you, Lord. I just allow myself to have life exactly how I want it. Just understand, guys, you might doubt yourself in your physical ability, your physical knowledge. You might be struggling with faith. Here's what's really cool. When you get out of the analytical mind, and there's the easiest way, guys, to do some deep breathing and any meditation. You can use my 9-minute meditation, praying with the energy of God. You can use any really meditation, or you can listen to music if it gets your brain waves to slow down a little bit. So you're in this dream, like you're not really paying attention, but things are coming to you and you feel calm. Because what's really cool about that is it literally shuts down the part of your brain that experiences fear, anxiousness, etc. But the fastest way is it's automatic, guys, is when you breathe. Now, right when you wake up, you're already in that alpha theta state where you're not in beta, where you're worried about everything, anxious, your attention's going all over. You're really in this relaxed state. And right before you go to bed, you start to drop into that. So if you're during the day, or right when you wake up, you go, you know what, I want to take 5 minutes and what I do in one space and time when I get into my prayer or meditation, I realize that I'm actually creating it in the physical world. What you do in one space and time must happen in every space and time. So what you do in the spiritual realm has effect on what happens in the physical realm. It's really a wild thing. And so here's the one. He goes, the experiments that changed everything. How scientists started to look at what is this presence of God that we're all contained in? He says at one point, a span of 350 miles separated the donor and his cells, the cheek cells. And he said the time between the donor's experience and the cell's response was gauged by an atomic clock located in Colorado. In each experiment, the interval measured between the emotion and the cell's response was zero. The effect was simultaneously, meaning 350 miles away, they were showing people images that caused fear, anxiousness, and also images that caused them to have peace, love, joy, bliss. And it says whether the cells were in the same room or separated by hundreds of miles, the results were the same. When the donor had an emotional experience, the DNA reacted as if it was still connected to the donor's body. While this may sound a little spooky to us at first, Einstein called it spooky action at a distance. He says, we don't know what this is, but we can realize it does work. Consider this. If there's a quantum field that links all matter, then everything must be and remain connected. As Dr. Jeffrey Thompson, a colleague of Cleve Baxter's, states so eloquently from this viewpoint, quote, there is no place where one's body actually ends and no place where it begins. Meaning you're not limited to this body. This is just a container that allows us to go experience the presence of God from a human experience. Now, let's talk about this a little bit, where what you actually do, the now you, are you trying to say, are you saying this is what I get all the time? Yes. All I'm doing is confirming what science is already saying and showing that what you do right now, if you see yourself enjoying life, having a blissful life, going, I'm so in love with life, I can't imagine anything better, actually heals your trauma. And it actually creates a blueprint to bring you a beautiful future that keeps going. Oh, they're emotionally, they're experiencing this pleasure, they're experiencing this love for life. They're experiencing this, I love my life and I love how everything is working in my life. It's as if God loves me so much. Yes, that actually heals the past trauma. So there's no reason you don't understand, and there's no reason to worry about the future. I said one of my favorite quotes, we were talking in House Fellowship last night, is Mark Twain. He said, I've experienced some horrible things in my life. Some of them actually happened, meaning we're our own tormentor. We spend time worrying about things we don't have to worry about. If you would just, hey, you know what? I'm going to take my eyes off the facts and experience life exactly how I want it. You don't have to know how you get from A to B. You just enjoy yourself experiencing B, meaning it's the big three. If you're worried about lack of money, if you're worried about lack of love, people don't like me, I don't like myself, somebody wronged me, or you're worried about lack of health, it's always fear, those three, different subsets of all those. You can just simply go, wait a minute, I'm aware that I'm starting to feel those emotions. I'm going to calm myself down a little bit by doing some breathing, whatever method works for you to quickly get out of that fear, anxiousness, analytical state of your mind and tap into the infinite presence of God, which has no fear. It has all the answers. It has all the abundance. Everything that you could ever need is as abundant as the air you breathe. So you can simply breathe in and go, I am breathing in the abundance of God, that it flows to me in avalanches of abundance. I'm breathing in divine health, every cell in my body and every cell in this other person's body who you see you're trying to heal somebody else, let's say, and you can just see them as whole. What you do in one space and time has the same effect in all spaces and times. The point and the key is for you to enter into that presence of God, and you do that by simply quieting yourself and going within versus paying attention to everything out here, because everything out here simply responds to what you do in here. That's how it works. And that's actually ek kaleo, the church. As I said, ek is you shall behold epsilon, which comes from the Hebrew hey. You shall behold the creative ability. And ek is the kaf, or the intimacy between you and God. What you do with you and God, you should behold what comes from it. And so that's pretty cool. So let's go talk about this. This is from the Quantum You by Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself by Dr. Joe Dispenza. It's in the Quantum You chapter. In this book, it happens to be page 17. It says, weird science. Can we affect the past? And science is going, you absolutely can. Since we're all interconnected across distance and time, does this suggest other thoughts and feelings? Thoughts and feelings, guys. Not use spiritual warfare, not Not this book clearly says nothing. What you do suggests that your thoughts and feelings influence events in your past as well as the future. This is the famous experiment. In July 2000, Israeli doctor Leonard Leibovitch conducted a double-blind randomized controlled trial involving 3,393 people. Now, I'm getting some pushback from Christians going, how can this be? Guys, this is a double-blind randomized control study. So they took 3,393 hospital patients, computer generated. Half of them are going to be a control group not prayed for. So we have a basis. Half of them are going to be prayed for. So we can draw scientific conclusions from this. This is a real experiment. And I would say, all of you guys that are, come on, this isn't, God really can't be. See, I really think most of the times Christians have the least amount of faith because they've been taught that faith is something different than it actually is. I hope you use the same level of curiosity in the stories that you believe with no scientific evidence. For instance, you think two penguins came from the Arctic, made it all the way there through the hot desert and jumped on a boat in the Middle East? Come on. There's no scientific evidence that any of that, but you believe it because you were taught that you must believe that. So I'm saying the science actually shows this is real. This is beyond all when you do true statistical experiments and scientific experiments, you do have to have a control group, and it has to be beyond standard deviations so you can go, yes, this wasn't lucky. This wasn't just random. That group that wasn't prayed for had a very different experience than the group that was prayed for. So in July 2000, remember that, they had an intercession group and a control group, meaning people that knew how to experience peace, pleasure, wholeness within themselves actually affected these patients. The prayer experiments are great examples of mind affecting matter at a distance, but stay with me here because everything is not as it seemed. So actually, what they didn't know, this intercession group, they were praying for patients who were affected in the year 2000. So he didn't tell them, hey, in 2000, we're going to pray for these people. But guess what? They were in the hospital from 1990 to 96. He just said, we're going to see how does prayer actually heal bodies? Unbeknownst to them, they were praying for lists of people who had been in the hospital from 1990 to 96, 4 to 10 years prior to the experiment. The prayed for patients actually got better during the 1990s from the experiment conducted years later. Let me say this another way. The patients who were prayed for in 2000 all showed measurable changes in health, but those changes in health took place in the year 1990 through 96. Our prayers not only affect our present and the future, they actually affect our past as well. Now, this leads to the question, if you were to pray or focus on any intention, meaning what are you going to do within right now? The now you, are you going to pay attention to the facts, freak out about this is happening, this happened, this, and still blame things in trauma in your past? Or are you going to see yourself enjoying a divine life right now? Can you focus on a better life for yourself and affect the past, present, and future? As I've been saying, it actually creates new neural networks in you as if the past never even happened. In fact, God used that past. Oh, choice A, this happened to you. We're going to make choice A the right place to you to bring you to right now so you can experience divine bliss, divine health, divine abundance right now. Or if it didn't happen, we use choice B. That's the amazing part about the Spirit of God. The quantum law says that all potentials exist simultaneously. What you think and what you feel actually affects all aspects of your life beyond space and time. It's infinite. The presence of God can go forward, backward, and arrange everything to bring you right to the perfection that you are right now. And it always does. All right, cool. And then let me just share again, how to access this presence of God to do all these things, guys, is not in your analytical mind. That's why we're sharing these concepts. I can't, as we were talking in house fellowship last night, all we can do is like the science is going, hey, this is how it works. You need to go experience it for yourself. You can't get it in your analytical mind. That's why some of these people are reaching out who are Christians, but all things are possible to him who believes, yet they're the ones who don't believe. It's it's so ironic to me. But anyway, but they do believe all these other stories that would be really hard to believe. Even when you show them the science, you go, no, come on. That's your analytical mind. Guess what? When you do some breathing and focus within, is the fastest way to get you into alpha, meaning I'm past this and I've entered into this power of God that's innocent all around us. You have access to it. Nothing's impossible in that realm. That's what's really cool. And what you'll find in that realm is there's no judgment. There's no, this was a good choice. This was a bad choice. There's no, this was a bad boy. This is a good boy. This is a bad little girl. You did this, or this is a good little girl. You did this. Those are all mistranslations, guys. What you'll find is once you get into there, it is pure love and there's no judgment of all things. Woo. And what you realize that's literally beyond space and time because you've entered into the presence or the Spirit of God, which has no limits. It can go backwards, forwards. In fact, what you do in the future affects what you do in the past. It's a crazy matrix. So the key is to getting past this analytical mind, because then you actually get into the operating system of your DNA, your heart and mind, the magnificent creation that you are, and that's the control center. And what you do in those relaxed states, guys, your heart and mind accept it as real. They don't ask questions. And let's just say you're envisioning a beautiful, blissful, divine life. It brings you right there quicker than you ever thought with ease, because it's the Spirit of God. Remember, you're tapping into the very power of God. It's not hard for God. It's hard for your analytical mind. It's not hard for God. So in Dying to Be Me, I'm going to share a few things over the next few messages out of here by Anita Morjani. I love some of the truths. She goes, so her story, some of you guys don't know, she was stage 4 cancer at the verge of death. So her body was shutting down. And she goes, I basically entered into the spiritual realm where I could see and feel all things at all times. She was right there. And she goes, I realized God was not who I thought it was. God is not judgmental at all. It's pure love. And there's no right or wrong. And there's no time. Everything happens in one space and time happens in all time. So I just want to read a couple things from you. I'm not going to go through all of it because I want to do this and really hammer this home over the next few messages. So let me read this to you. All right. So when she got out of the analytical mind, how? Because she was on the verge of death. You don't have to get there to do it. You can do it today, simply by some breathing work where you quiet yourself down. You'll enter into that alpha and theta state. She goes, without the limitations of my body, because she was present, she saw all points and times. I took in all points of time and space as they pertained to me, but it happened to be all at once. And then I was overwhelmed by the realization that God isn't a being. He's not this guy on the clouds waiting to judge you if you've been right or wrong. That's the religious interpretation and a wrong translation in the 4th century, guys. It doesn't say, thou shalt not partake of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. It literally doesn't in the Hebrew. It is a divine promise. It says, you shall experience the firmness that is good for you and the highest point of man, Ra, that they translated as evil. Meaning it's this, is the 2 covenants is how does life happen, guys? It comes from the firmness of intimacy. And when the seed has been released, the firmness relaxes. And it's talking about both covenants. Physical, here we are. Second covenant is when the Spirit of God is in you, the highest point of man is Resh, your head, which is Resh Ayin, which they translated as evil. It literally says Ra. And it's very similar to where we get Israel. Ish is the passion or the fire of the male. Ra, the highest point of man, is El. You should behold what comes from that rod, the lamed. So it's not negative. And I get it, Ra'el, it's Resh Aleph in Hebrew and Resh Ayin, but they're very similar in all the root words. So Ra was, you shall experience the firmness. You have the presence of God in you. And it's really fascinating when you look at the body and what they've known for thousands of years, guys. And let me just address something here. There's a lot of people like, well, this sounds new age. Guys, This is old age. This was thousands of years before the concept of the Bible came about. They've known this, how the body works, and this magnificent covering of God of mankind. They actually call it Ka, where they go, we realize there's a presence of God that covers you or blesses you. And what you do in the highest point of man, your head, the holiest of holies, is not a box riding around in the Middle East, guys. The Holy Holies, all those stories are talking about you. God didn't confine himself to a box. He's the box. He's the guys carrying the box. He's the in all space and time. But you think these stories are about, hey, put themselves in a box in Israel and they're marching around. No, the box is you. You're the tabernacle, guys. The presence of God carried around on the shoulders of men. This is you, the holiest of holies, where the presence of God is between the cherubs, the two winged creatures, the cherubim, the cerebrum is what it's talking about. It's talking about the magnificence of you is where the presence of God is. It's in you and all through you. I better get off that because I get passionate about that. I'm like, no, what Braden's talking about, he's like, you're so much more magnificent and powerful than you ever thought, guys. You're not this little thing separated from God. And if you believed a certain story, he jumped into you at church camp. That is not at all what it's saying. That is not at all what it's saying. Anyway, she goes, what I realized without the limitations of my body, I was infinite. I had access to this presence. Said, I never felt this huge, this powerful, this all-encompassing ever before. She realized who she was. She got it past the analytical mind and all the beliefs she thought. There I was, without my body or any physical traits, yet my pure essence continued to exist, and it was not reduced element of the whole self. In fact, it felt like I was far greater and more intense and expansive than any physical being. I was magnificent. I felt eternal. Hello. As if I'd always existed and always would be without beginning or end. Yes, the spirit is present before you came into this body. It's present when you come out of that body. It connects all things. And I was filled with the knowledge that I was simply magnificent. Oh, it's sad that science is doing a better job with all this than religion right now. So here's some truths that came out of this. First, now this is I got to explain this to you. So she's on this verge of stepping out of her body into eternal life, or she has the choice to stay. So once she gets rushed in, she's in a coma. The doctors do all of their tests and they go, here's what her kidneys are doing, here's what her liver is doing, here's what's happening. So they do their test, they write the reports. Yet in the spirit realm, she was very cognizant of, I can choose to come back to this body. And since I know that who I actually am now, that I have access to the magnificent healing presence of God, it's not going to take me years and years of chemo and skin grafts and everything the doctors are telling me. In fact, it's going to be like that. And it was a matter of days, guys. That's one choice. Or I could choose to step out of this body and step into eternal life. And that choice is perfect as well. She realized any choice I make is perfect because God will arrange everything to make that choice perfect for me. So check this out. The doctors do their tests. She's out of her analytical mind in the presence of the spirit, which encompasses all space and times. It knows what happens before you. It knows what happens after you. Everything is connected. So here's what's cool. What subsequently happened is incredibly hard to describe. First, it felt as though whatever I directed my awareness toward appeared before me. It was effortless. Science calls it the observer effect, like where we place our attention. The simple act of paying attention to something or visualizing something or imagining something is an act of physical creation. He goes, it happened. The whole world responded just by me paying attention to something. Whatever I directed my awareness towards, because she was outside of all of her limited beliefs that said, oh, come on, that can't happen. She just realized I am the magnificent presence of God, the Spirit of God. And if I simply see something, it becomes. Now, there's so many testimonies of people and yogis who understood this, guys, that go, I didn't want to place my attention on anything because I knew if I placed my attention on that, it was going to happen. Even like the good things, like, no, I'm too busy. I don't even want to pay it. Oh, now, okay. I was just an act of creation. Now, the good news, guys, is there's nothing to be fearful for because the elevated emotions of love, joy, peace, bliss are magnitudes more than the emotions of fear, anxiousness, worry. So don't worry about this, where the minute I worry about something that's going to appear, like, oh my God, I better never do anything wrong. No, God's even going to make those choices ultimately become good for you. It has much less power when you have those limited beliefs. And it's really a defense mechanism to keep you from creating all kinds of things you didn't want in your life. But to what any neuroscientist um, will tell you, like, if you really knew how powerful you are, you would really pay attention and do your best to never have a negative thought again, where you'd want to pay attention to go, I'm a magnificent creator, and I'm going to put all my attention on a blissful, perfect life, how I could design it right now. So anyway, so let's get back to this. Prior to this point, doctors had conducted tests on the function of my organs, and their report had already been written. Here's the crazy part. But in the spirit realm, the outcome of those tests depended on the decision that I had yet to make, whether to live or continue on to death. She goes, the report's already been written. So you could say that 2 reports have been written, and my decision is going to determine which report we're going to experience in this physical realm. She said, if I chose death, the test results from the doctors would say my organs failed. But if I chose life, they'd show my organs begin to function again. So, guys, this is so awesome. What she's doing when she's out of her analytical mind, and this is the same for all of us, makes choice A or choice B perfect for us. If we see, she goes, I realized that I could see that the doctors had already written their tests. They conducted the tests on my organs. They'd written the results. But what was going to happen in the physical realm, what we were going to actually experience, determined on what she paid attention to in the spirit realm. So if she said, I'm going to leave my body, the reports would come back and say the organs failed. If she goes, wait a minute, I'm going to choose to stay here in my body, the report would come back like, oh my God, all the organs started to function again. She says, the doctors conducted the tests and the reports had already been written, period. But in this realm, past the analytical mind, in the spirit realm, in your meditation, it seemed as though the outcome of those tests and the report depended on my decision. Now, here's what's cool. Once she realized her magnificence, she said, I knew even if I chose not to go back, everything was exactly how it should be in the grand tapestry of life. And if she did to come back to her body, she said the same thing. Everything was exactly as it should be in the grand tapestry of life. God truly makes all things work together for our good. She goes, and I realized my true self, it wouldn't take, my body would heal rapidly because I now know who I am. All the limiting beliefs are gone. She goes, so I knew I'd be healed in months or weeks. It wouldn't take me months or weeks, but in days. It was then that I understood that my body is a reflection of my internal state, at kaleo, the nature that comes from the inside out, which they translate as church. So the challenge is people are going to this building telling them who they are not, when the scriptures actually say, when you go within, you'll experience who you really are. Everything, all that is in caps, she writes, my body would soon reflect and heal rapidly, because she goes, I realize I can simply pay attention in my awareness and it would appear before me, and time was completely irrelevant, as if it wasn't even a factor to consider or didn't exist. So we were talking about this in fellowship last night. Take any aspect of your life, whether it's money, whether it's love. Oh, I wish I wouldn't have done this. I wish that marriage never would have happened. Da, 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 da. I wish I would have planned for retirement earlier. I wish I never would have got into this debt, etc. If you're thinking financially, if you're thinking health, oh, I wish I wouldn't have done all those things. I wouldn't have done all this to my body. No, 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 no. Time isn't even something to consider. If you see yourself enjoying abundance right now, it makes as if, I'm just going to use a practical thing, as if you've saved your whole life. It's so awesome, guys. Now, I'm learning how to apply this to my life as well, but I get so excited when I understand all this stuff. So I don't have to go, oh, I wish Barb and I would have done this differently in our marriage, or I wish this never would have happened in high school. Regrets, past mistakes, etc. All I have to do is pay attention to the divine life, how I want it to be right now. And it lines up all those things as if they didn't happen and brings me right to where I am right now. Time is not to be considered. It brings me right to what I put attention to. So if I see myself as abundant, if I see myself as divine, if I see myself as loved and whole, and the love I have is touching my wife, it's touching my kids and all people, it's as if that's always been. That is really cool. So I would just encourage you to do this. What you do right now in this space and time, the now you is connected to the 10-year-old you. It's connected to the year, the you future to now. In fact, it's connected to all things and people. And it rearranges in response to you. Whatever you pay attention to now, I realized that whatever I placed my awareness on appeared. Whatever I directed my awareness toward appeared before me. Second, time was completely irrelevant. It wasn't even a factor considered as though it didn't exist. So don't worry about the future. Don't have regrets about the past, guys. When you pay attention to the divine life now, take some time every day. If you're feeling anxious throughout the day, like I said, whether you use my 9 minute, I just did that as a sample, guys. Praying with the energy of God, whether you use a meditation you find online, I don't really care. The key is to get out of the analytical mind, the worrying mind. Breath works really easy. It gets you there in 30 seconds. And it shuts down that part of your brain that allows you to experience fear, anxious, whatever. And whatever you pay attention to, the perfect life for you, the perfect amount of abundance for you, the perfect love for you, when you start to experience that, allow yourself to feel that, that is God. And guess what? When you're in that, you can trust the love of God, this higher power of God, the power of God that is in and through all things, that what you do affects every atom in the world and brings that what you've just experienced in the spirit realm into your physical life. Because what you do in one space and time must appear in all spaces and time. What you do in the spirit must occur in the physical as well. She goes, I realized that everything was a reflection or a mirror of me. She experienced it. Science is defining it that way. We could call it the spirit of God, the presence of God that has no limits. And what does it do for you? You don't have to struggle, guys. When you pay attention to the dream life, you can quickly turn your goals into reality faster than you ever thought possible. When you see yourself whole or when you see somebody else whole, remember what that what that person did 350 miles away had an effect on the DNA 350 miles away. So guess what? When you experience divine wholeness and you see other people present, remember you are tapping into the presence of God. It actually heals yourself and heals others. If you're in a spot like, I have no idea, the best thing to do is not worry about, I got to figure this out. You don't know the answer. But is there a presence of God, the Spirit of God that knows all answers? Of course there is. The Spirit of God already has all the answers. So you don't have to struggle trying to figure it out. You can simply go to bed tonight and go, I'm going to see myself giving this question to you. Thank you, God, that you give me the answers to everything. And I don't need to struggle for it because I'm entering into the love of God, the divine presence of God that already has all the answers. Simply see yourself enjoying, oh, thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord, that you gave me the answer. And I never have to worry about figuring it out myself again. I can just tap into all knowingness, which I'm one with, and see yourself enjoying the answer. It'll show up, guys. Or if you have an apparent problem, just go, wait a minute. And in the next few weeks, we'll talk a little bit more about the dying to me. But she actually said this. She goes, I realized that in my profession, in my financial life, in my career life, etc., if I'm trying to figure it out in my analytical mind, worrying and stressing, she goes, it takes forever and it feels like I'm walking through molasses. I like to say is like you've got the infinite flow in the spirit realm that's a present that you can use, but you put a 1,000-pound anchor on it yourself. Just get yourself out of the way. This is God. This is the presence of God you're tapping into. It's not hard for God. Hard for your analytical mind, not hard for God. So simply go, I thank you, Lord, that you can quickly remove any obstacle or apparent problem in my life. And then see yourself enjoying that. Just, I'm so blown away. I'm so in awe of how simple and how powerful and this love of God responds to me. Simply see yourself enjoying the life you have, and the problem is going away. It's already gone. She goes, when I do that, when I take time to go within, she actually says, I've been accused of you're wasting time because she's not working 8, 9, 10 hours a day. She'll spend time to go meditate and go, I realize that'll take me forever. But if I go within, God's outside of time, so he can do it in no time. It's not me trying to bring about the desired result. It's the presence of God bringing about the desired result. She goes, and if I see myself enjoying the answer, oh, thank you, Lord, that you took care of this for me. She goes, the minute I take my attention off the problem and I place my attention on the outcome that I already want to enjoy and I feel it, I see myself enjoying it. She goes, the problem miraculously heals itself. Of course it does. Because wherever you place your attention and awareness makes it appear. So if we've got our attention on what I don't want, we're fearful might happen, or I can't believe this person did this to me in my past, trauma, I'm a victim. We keep experiencing that over and over and over as if it's happening to the now. But if we take our attention off that, we take all the energy out of it, it literally dissolves. And the divine you guys, she goes, once you get past the limiting beliefs, the easiest way again is get out of the analytical mind, simply get into a quiet state by breathing, listening to calm music, whatever works for you. I just know that breathing always works, so you don't have to worry about it, right? You'll get into that quiet state, and whatever you do there is the presence of God, bringing it into, shaping it into your physical reality. So hopefully that helps, guys. The truly amazing thing about the Spirit of God, it's not limited by time and space. And the now you, what you do right now, what you choose to pay attention to, literally heals your past and creates a blueprint for your future. So hopefully that helps, guys. God bless.